think that's everyone's reaction.
It really feels like an arena here, or a theater, right?
Definitely.
So let's put on a show. We have a great topic to discuss today: robotics, physical AI. One of the hottest topics in tech, probably also in society today. I actually read this morning, and we have to take it with a big grain of salt, that Elon Musk said robotics will abolish poverty and maybe also money. I think that might be slightly over the top, and he also might be slightly biased. But it's definitely, it's a big topic. Startups and tech giants like Tesla are racing to bring intelligent machines into the physical world, not just someday, but actually right now. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang said that the next wave of AI will be physical, and I'm actually quite convinced that it will be larger than the waves we currently experience and that we've experienced before. Robotics is the next tectonic platform shift, and this is why I'm so excited to have both of you here to discuss this topic with me. Two of the leading robotic innovators in Europe. Allow me to briefly introduce you again. We have, first of all, Oana Jinga. You are co-founder, chief commercial, and chief product officer of Dexory. With Dexory, you're building autonomous warehouse robots, but not just that. You're building especially a real-time digital twin platform of these warehouses, giving warehouse operators fully live and automated inventory intelligence. Very cool. Great to have you here. And then, of course, I'm very excited to have an HV portfolio founder here with me, David Reger, founder, CEO of Neura Robotics. You are pioneering cognitive robotics, or as you call them, I think that's quite simply put, smartphones with arms and legs. And you recently unveiled your newest humanoid robot for anyone. I'm Fabian Gruner. I'm a partner at HV Capital, one of Europe's largest multi-stage funds. In the next 28 minutes that we have, we'll dive into why robotics is the next platform revolution, what it takes to win in the space, a bit about the tech stack, data and AI, and anything else we can squeeze into the time. Let's jump right in. Robotics investments hit really record highs this year, and Oana, you are in the middle of that storm, I have to say. You raised a massive round, one of the largest in Europe in this space, $165 million just recently. Congratulations, really massive achievement. I'm really curious to hear, what's your view on why robotics is pushed so much to the forefront right now? Is there any single driving force?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think for both of us, having been in it for almost 10 years, it's great to see it finally happening, because 10 years ago we were telling people we're going to build a robot, whatever that was. They were looking at us cross-eyed and thinking we'd been mad, pretty much. But I think it's from my perspective, there's a combination of things. Number one is, on the hardware side, there's been a lot of developments which makes hardware per se, first of all, much more competent and also much more affordable. So, I mean, a very simple example that I always give is the LiDAR sensors we have on our robot. It used to be 20,000, 30,000 pounds a piece 10 years ago. It's now like 200-300 pounds, right? And we have about 25 of those on the robot. So to be able to kind of build a scale, you need to kind of consider the unit economics, of course, which our investors would always say. So the cost of hardware is different. There's a lot more suppliers out there that can help you build at scale no matter where you are, not just in Asia. But then, of course, there's the whole kind of brain side behind the robots themselves and how much data you can capture, how you capture it, process it. And again, that's also accelerated massively. And all of that paired with, first of all, some big names getting into it, which profile always attracts. To your comment earlier, I was like curious, what else did Elon say this morning? Because that will push down the market, right? I think, the third big one is the adoption from customers. At the end of the day, I mean, we could build whatever we want, but if no one pays for it and like the industry is not ready for it, then it will flop. So we've also seen a big shift in adoption.
Got it. That's three very important points. I would kind of pose the same question to you, David, with a bit of a different spin. You once told me, and I think you also said it publicly, so I'm going to say it publicly now, cognitive robotics will be bigger than the smartphone. This is quite a bold statement. I mean, the smartphone industry is, what, 700 billion today, something like this? What makes you believe that?
So first, I think, like, who of you don't want to have, let's say, a smart robot in your homes doing all the stuff you don't like to do? So mostly everyone, yes. Are robots there yet? Maybe not, but I think I'm pretty positive on we can get them there pretty soon. So why I think the market is bigger is pretty obvious. Like, a smartphone costs just much less than as a robot, but in the same time also I think there will be like robots in all kind of spaces in the world. So it means like commercially, yeah, you will see them like in all the restaurants, in all the, let's say, areas, like also in the industries, hotels, everywhere, as soon as they are good enough to get there. And the second is like, yes, I think everyone will have one in their homes one day, if they want to. And I think even more even than just one. So that's actually where I think, why I think there will be more. And the other part is why I'm sure it will be in a very soon, let's say very soon and close future, is basically just looking geographically right now. There's a lot of things going on. And if you're talking, like seeing what goals China have, I mean, like even until 2030, they are actually planning to have, let's say, 5% working labor converted into smart robots. They call it humanoids the most. In reality, it's just smart robots. And if you call this number of 5% working labor, it's about 40 million. So it will be already there, the largest market on the planet. And why I'm sure? Simply because China never reached less than 85% of their goals. So it will be the largest market. And and that's also why I think the world will not just watch China doing it and fulfilling it. No, the world will compete, will actually also try to have their solutions, because if not, we all know we will actually end up as a museum here. So, and this is also where why I'm so sure about it. Yeah.
You just mentioned China, so let me briefly pick up on that point. You're both building out of Europe. US is investing heavily in robotics, China is investing heavily in robotics. Which role do you think Europe has to play in this race? And then are there any advantages, challenges that you see here?
Should I?
Of course.
I think so. We just so I do think like every time I'm getting asked, and I always want to put it right away in the right bucket, because I do believe like I'm not trying to take a side. What is the market yet? So I think important for us, and I think this is also how all the other successful players did worldwide, is that we think global. So we think like global, making robots for humans. Are Chinese humans? Yes. Are US people humans? Yes. So we try to do it as far we are allowed to. We would like to serve global market with smart robots. And why I see right now the biggest opportunity for that, it's basically because we have to, let's say, there is also a lot of, so first, there's also a lot of European or American companies actually in US are not willing to share the data maybe with the Chinese companies yet. And this is an opportunity like having smart robots actually also in China for European and American players worldwide, or Western players which have all the production sites there. And the other part is that even I think right now the opportunity, we see right now a lot of walking and dancing robots. So still the piece of having, let's say, robots which bring real impact and can get some work done, it's not existing yet. It's still a vision. So everyone who solves that can actually take it global, in my opinion, would make much more sense. So to not take it too long, that's pretty much the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to add as well, there's a variety of kind of factors to consider. And similarly for us, we do build for the world. So we do have customers all the way from Australia to California and up and down on the globe as well. But I think being based in Europe, and I'm very proud of that, and I continue to kind of talk about it. Obviously, we talked about the state of European tech yesterday. Yeah. It's a very kind of interesting point on the globe to be, because you do have access to a lot of Asian suppliers when it kind of comes to the hardware, and obviously you can collaborate on that side, but also form on the talent, on the AI and data side that you can attract from, of course, the US, but also other countries in Europe. So for us, it's kind of worked very well to build that business on European soil, and then obviously scale across the world as needed.
Thank you. You both mentioned data, which is, I think, a core advantage of building out of Europe, is that you have this data perspective always consciously in mind, not just as an asset. Let's talk a bit more about data. Oana, with Dexory, I've read that you are collecting about 1 million data points per warehouse per day, which is a massive and unbelievable number, right? Can you give us a bit more context? What you're collecting there, and also how does it help you to build better solutions for your customers?
Yeah, and I think, obviously we're on a robotics panel and we talk robotics, but our product at the end of the day is not the robot. It's the insight that we extract from the data that the robot collects. So obviously versus Neura, who is very much focused on the robot doing a lot of the tasks, the only task that our robot does is that it collects information and data from a warehouse. But after that, there's a whole element of processing it and extracting insights. So we're looking at the very core level. We take all the information about the stock and the inventory, the space, the routes, the dimensions of a warehouse. We digitize that. But then we apply numerous kind of mathematical computation on top of it to tell our customers how to maximize that space, how to consolidate goods, reduce walking distances between places, so just be much more of an efficient warehouse operation. So at the end of the day, that's what matters to us. And the customer doesn't interact at all with our robots. They don't have to touch them, feel them. They just work in the background. And actually, if no one kind of minds them, that's actually a good thing for us because they have to work in the background. So I think that there's two elements of data when you talk about robotics. One is having enough data to train your robots. But then in our case, is actually the data collected from the robots, what you do with it afterwards, and how you can then give more value to users from it.
That's a very strong perspective. Basically, the robot as part of the tech stack to deliver a solution, not as the product itself, right?
Exactly.
David, let's stick with data a bit. Data, in the end, is the lifeline of physical AI. You are even building your own data collection, physical data collection and training centers. You call them Neura Gyms, which I think is a great name. Can you tell us a bit more about that? What they do, why is it important to your strategy?
Yeah, I think everyone right now talks about physical AI, and here mostly they talk also about the ChatGPT moment in physical AI. And here I also get to the point, like mostly I start talking about how was actually the ChatGPT moment created, and why OpenAI basically did the first steps, and why are they still in the leading position in that space. Simply because they were bold enough to buy a lot of data or get a lot of data somewhere from. And the second is like they were actually training for a lot of money. So they spent a lot of cash basically to train on it without knowing the outcome. So, and it were successful. So that's why they're also in that space leading and deserved. So now everyone is projecting exactly this one on the physical AI part. And now here the very simple answer. First, this data is not existing. So you cannot buy it. You cannot steal it. You cannot get it anywhere from. So you're actually in the position where you have to collect it somehow. So, and then you're seeing also right now, it's also right now pretty famous in China. They're doing pretty good again in this space. So they are starting collecting this, building this collection farms, like also from the governmental side, but also like single companies. And this is what we looked at. But the thing is, like through the experience we got from 2019 building actually physical AI, but not having the name of physical AI, basically, we figured out that just collecting the data will not solve everything, because if you look into OpenAI right now, then you will see that they are still not like profitable, and even the plan is actually get profitable by 2029 basically. But why does it take so much and there's still a vision is not even solved? Or it's because the cost of actually, let's say, retraining the world model is higher than actually the income they have. And this is just on text and picture data. Now project that one on physical data. It means actually video streams, audio streams, tactile sensor streams, and text and picture. And you will see that like physical AI will never get profitable actually in that space. So, and this is also why we started focusing on one thing, not how the hyperscaler taught us data is gold, but actually we understood it was only gold for them. So what we do is basically it's actually dirt until you process it, I always say. So we do build, let's say, a pipeline and a platform we call Neura Robotics, where you can actually, let's say, pre-process the data before you actually train on it with a lot of AI models, which the world can contribute. So I have to do it fast. And since we found out that this one is actually the solution to actually train a task, which normally, like with vision language models, which take us thousands of hours of training, we can do now actually in 2 hours. We actually built this physical, let's say, gyms we call Neura Gyms. So everyone can actually go there and train their task by our platform in much faster way. So I hope I didn't I try to touch everything. So if I confuse you, you can later come to me. I go deeper, but I think I need now to.
Thank you. I think it was a broader answer, but you explained it quite clearly. Thank you. Let's move on to the tech stack. You already mentioned tech stack a bit, and basically the hardware, the robot being part of it. To deliver a full solution, you have to basically master a lot of different disciplines. You have to master the hardware. Then there's the software piece, of course. There's AI and data that we just talked about, all end to end. A lot of companies out there try to basically separate these stacks and focus maybe on just one of them. You both take a full stack approach to building robotics. I think Neura, David, you develop your own sensors, your own components. We just talked about the AI models and the pipeline that you're building there. You're even building your own operating system and a marketplace behind this. And Oana, I've read, I love that quote. Dexory's approach is full stack engineering with zero customer complexity. So also full stack.
Yeah.
To both of you the question, why do you think this is such a defining factor in robotics? Do you think a new robotics startup could actually succeed by focusing only on one of these layers of the stack or outsourcing part of it?
I mean, to start, when we initially looked at, even like what we initially were doing retail robots and home robots, a very, very different approach. But I think from the beginning, we wanted to have all of that in-house and have the full control so that we can purposely build for a particular goal, which was kind of collecting the data that I was talking about earlier. So we did look at the market, and there was nothing out there that we could just take off the shelf. No robot base, no, like we have a whole tower obviously on top of the robot that we had to kind of purposely build. So nothing actually existed. So we had to kind of start from scratch and building our own. But the more we advanced in that journey, we just realized having that full control, being able to iterate and adjust and change even tiniest components just saves you so much time and money and effort rather than trying to constantly outsource. But the most important factor is also you can control the whole behavior of the robot fully to the tiniest detail, which then allows you to get, in our instance, like closer or furthest away from a warehouse rack to capture the right information in the right way. So that full control is very important. And then on the other hand, you have customer expectations, right? Where to be able to service, I mean, we work with some of the biggest corporates in logistics at the moment. They have huge expectations on SLAs and don't have to go in that detail. And having the full control on the tech stack, then you can instantly react to it and adjust and adapt as needed. So that was, again, a very big driver for us, is making sure that we serve the customer in the right way without depending on others.
Do you also see sticking with that strategy as the market potentially matures in the future?
100%, yeah, 100%. And I think going back to the point around how easy it is, of course it's not easy, and you do have to have so much knowledge in the team on different sides. We're 3 co-founders, and we were quite lucky to be quite complementary when it comes to that. But yeah, that initial team has to kind of start across multiple fronts.
By the way, I've learned today that you've met in school when you were 12 years old, the 3 of you. That's actually a great
We've been training a long time to do this. Yeah.
Perfect. There's a lot of muscle memory, I guess, then. Yeah. David, same question to you. Full stack, why?
I always, first, I think the robotics market was pretty close, or they were like the players in robotics, and they had the whole market. And the same thing also was once in the automotive industry. Like, how was this possible that the Tesla came up and actually, let's say, and also the Chinese BYDs or whatever, like they basically did a lot from scratch and did it just differently. Even they were not better, but they had a higher potential than the others, because the automotive industries was designed a way that they had the suppliers like Bosch, ZF, whatever, and they only take the components from them. So they had only like a 2-year advantage maybe, because, but never, let's say, in the big advantage. So if you want to take over a market and you want to actually create a new market, then you have to basically go deeper. And the best example also here is a smartphone. Do you think like you could build a platform and the operating system like iOS just simply on a Nokia phone? So that, or Motorola or Alcatel or whatever. So nothing against them, but no, you can't. So why? Because there is always, and this is especially if you're talking about smart cognitive robots, you're talking about compute distribution. So how you distribute the compute first to have different kind of processing, so fast reactions like a nerve system, like thoughts, like a brain, and the other part is actually connecting also to the platform and then having something which is actually orchestrating the models between these 2 layers. So it's not possible. There was nothing there. So we had to start creating. We started with a white paper, distributed compute right, integrated the sensors on the right side, built an operating system which is talking to all these devices, and then actually having a platform on top. So simply answer, maybe in the short way, I do think like to win a market, you can only do if you do full stack.
Thank you. Let me ask you a quick follow-up on this. We have all these different domains, hardware, software, AI, data, and so on. How do you balance investments between them, between both kind of monetary, human resources? Is there any sector that's especially hard to get right? Oana, maybe you?
I could probably start. So obviously, as the journey progresses, you have to pivot quite a bit from that. So initially, of course, there was a lot of R&D, a lot of technical, very little commercial. As we kind of are now in Series C and above, that balance is going to change. But within, I would say that the tech side of the business, you're always going to have an element of R&D, which again, going back to the investment side of things, your investors have to be comfortable with that, because that's never going to end, right? If you want to be at the top of your game and market, you're always going to have to push on that. Where I think it's interesting from a talent perspective, like we are attracting a lot of fantastic people in robotics, and everyone kind of knows us now, obviously wants to work for us. I think we are now starting to do the same when it comes to AI. Obviously, AI is such a generalist term that I always kind of laugh when people say you're hiring AI people. Okay, what does that actually mean? So we need quite specialized roles within that bucket. And finding them, of course, is not that easy because they can be all over the world. They usually have very competitive packages you have to go against. And obviously, you have to make that very attractive for them. So I think, in essence, like the focus on R&D continues. It's still going to be a very big part of our business. And probably the challenge is how do you find those super specialist roles where you only have a few people in the world doing it.
So if you work in that field, reach out to Oana afterwards.
Do ping me.
Perfect. David, what do you think is the hardest kind of piece of the stack to get right? All of it?
Piece, the hardest piece. Like I'm just like if you look into the let's say it's for sure like the platform, like to get it actually scalable for multi-million users. I think Europe is not really known for that. And at the same time, we want to make it like in Europe happen for the world. So and this is, in my opinion, the thing which let me every day think about like how can we get better? How can we actually make it more faster, scalable? And this is I think also the piece. Like I think attracting also the right talents here. It's important for me always that I don't believe that we should now look for people which have done something in that space because nobody had until now. So we have to find the right talents actually to get things done how nobody else ever did. And this is basically, and that's also I think the bubble we are living a little bit in is like that everyone tries to do it the same way as ChatGPT was created. And I think this is, in my opinion, for the physical AI space and failure. And I think this is also why we believe we are in the forefront in that space, that we can solve it. So here, this is like how to make this scalable. How can you onboard the communities on this platform? This is the toughest thing, in my opinion.
Got it. Perfect. So you're both building full stack. You're investing heavily across various areas of that stack. There's a topic where you're a lot less aligned, and actually it reminds me a lot of us humans. It's a probably still unsolved question for robotics and for humans. Should robots be generalists or specialists? You're taking, as I said, very different approaches to this. David, your robot is called for anyone, so it's clearly a general purpose robot that you're looking to build there. Oana, as you said, your robot does one task really well, inventory scanning in large warehouses. Why did you choose these directions? And what's your perspective? Are there any trade-offs between them? Will they converge at some point?
Do you want to start? Or?
I can. So general, like, so the thing is, we do think like that it has to be somehow focused on different kind of applications, but we build a platform for a different kind of application. So the idea here is not, and this is also, if you watch us from day one, then you saw that we did build, let's say, different kind of robot arms, mobile vehicles, and whatever. But how did we bring them to market? Not ourselves. So we did not try to be the expert in that space and whatever. So no, we always position ourselves as a platform provider and enabler. So it means actually we look for partners which are specialists in their segments. We partner with them. And then basically the first approach was white labeling our products and get them into market. And then let them have their expertise built on our platform. So this is basically the way how we went into that. So I do believe robotics will be very general, and with the platform, we do think it will be step by step. So it will be not just one day humanoid and being able to do everything, and we have to wait for that. No, it's not. I can prove you today that the humanoid can already press the same buttons as a human, take a part, put it in a machine like a human, close the door like a human. So, hey, we have already 60% of all the workload done, actually, in the world. So, and this is basically how we think, but all is built on the platform, and yes, pretty broad.
Got it. The smartphone with arms and legs makes a lot more sense with this description. Thank you so much. What's your take on specialist robotics?
So obviously for our use case, as I was saying earlier, there wasn't anything out there. So we've started with that particular kind of need in mind and built downwards from there. So for those of you who don't know us, like we have autonomous robots that are 16 meters tall.
Wow.
Obviously, that would be a very tall human. So you kind of need to be able to get all the way up to the highest shelf in a warehouse and get information from there in real time, top to bottom in one go, right? So we kind of had to find something very specialized to be able to capture that data, which again is our product rather than the robot itself. I think, from my perspective, there's definitely a lot of room for generalist robots to come out. And I think probably that's where we kind of converge, going back to your question, because we do scan a lot of warehouses in the world continuously, day in, day out. Like we're over almost 1 billion data points now from inside warehouses. Yep. Going back to your point earlier around, you have to train these robots for the physical space in one way. Like we probably have the most unique data sets from warehouses versus anyone else, like getting even remotely close. So kind of our thinking is around more collaborations with companies like yours. Like we have all that information that you can then kind of fit into and use that in the right way. Because our intention is not to go into further use cases. It's more around what else can you do with that data and with that insight. And I think, going back to the physicality of robotics, that's where probably the biggest gap is. Again, going back to your point, that data just doesn't exist. And you can't just synthesize it. Like all the random things we see in warehouses that people do, there's no way in the world that you can make that artificially. Like why would a person go from A to B by taking a whole route around? Because they're trying to prolong their lunch break, of course. So it's all kinds of little things like that will actually make or break some of the more generalist applications. So that's a very good converging point, is having that physical data at scale in a very easy to access way, and that you could pass around to others, welcome them into the ecosystem.
Got it. I can clearly see how your customers benefit from that special focus in the end. As we unfortunately already move more towards the end of this discussion, let's give something to the audience. I assume there's quite a number of founders in the audience or listening that potentially want to build in robotics and physical AI. What's a piece of advice, something you've learned along the journey of building, the two amazing companies that you've built and that you continue to build, that you would like to pass on about the field of robotics and physical AI? Maybe, David, you want to start?
Yes. So, I think, especially in the physical AI space, I think this is like a complete new story. So I think first advice, do not match that just with artificial intelligence, like the word everyone used until today, because this is not the bubble, it's actually the reality. And the good thing is that this piece you can prove much faster and easier than actually, let's say, all other AI spaces right now. So I do believe that it's just the beginning. I would suggest here also, do not just think how everyone has done until today, because here I think the space is still open enough and big enough that we can actually think together how will it be better, efficient for tomorrow to win again, let's say, in the world in that space. So I would encourage actually everyone looking one step deeper into physical AI. Do not listen to that what's right now told a lot around you, because I hear it all the time right now. Wow, is it not a babble? Because they heard it somewhere. This is exactly the thing they told me when I started 2019. Hardware. Who actually cares about hardware? Nobody thinks about robots. Nobody thinks whatever. Yes, that's the right time to think about, because there you can actually bring the change and then actually be the company in the world winning in that space. So this is what I would encourage everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. That's a great opportunity for everyone here in the round. How about you, Oana?
Yeah, I would take it to the more kind of practical element. I was talking about this yesterday with quite a few other robotics founders in another session here. It's obviously not an easy thing to do, like building for physical spaces and having a physical element, but there's just so much help out there right now that I always can't take that as an excuse anymore. There's so many kind of hacker spaces where you can get access to laser cutters, CNC machines to actually make the first prototypes, to actually take that across to investors or whoever you need to get funding from. And I think everyone was asking about lessons. I think being scrappy but super creative and how you get that across is probably the biggest lesson. Like, don't give up, always got to think there's got to be certain ways that you can move that ahead. I mean, for instance, we were working with people like in the local theater back then to make the first prototype out of like the foam and their props and so on. There's always like a way to move the business forward. Like, it sounds complex and crazy, but take it step by step and there'll be people there to help. Don't be intimidated. And I'm sure there's 2 people here on the stage that are happy to give any more advice one-on-one. Yes. Thank you so much. This was incredibly interesting. It was great to have you on stage here. And off to the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.